How's it everyone? It's been a while since I did a video, so I decided to catch you all up and also throw in some modding tips. I recently upgraded my CPU to the Ryzen 5 800 X3D, and I also decided to rework my mod list from the ground up. Now, redoing a mod list can be very frustrating, especially if you've worked very hard and you've put a lot of hours into your current list. But if you're finding that your performance is not doing well, you could go and have a look at some mods that are known to be performance hungry, such as HTT Physics. There's often different profiles and selections that you can make that will improve the performance impact on your CPU. Another thing is if you're adding too many items to the world, such as more trees, more rocks, different objects, it will definitely impact your draw calls, and Skyrim's engine can only handle a certain amount before, no matter what hardware you have, your system will not seem to hit that 60 FPS mark. Another way to improve FPS in Skyrim is by adding performance mods, which I've done a video that covers that, and I'll add the link in the description below. Today, I'd rather want to focus on more about the draw calls and also the performance uplift that 3D Vcache CPUs have on Skyrim and perhaps the creation engine as a whole. So I thought the best way to show you all the difference between a CPU that has 3D Vcache and one that doesn't is to show you the difference of performance from my 5600X, which was my previous CPU, going up to my new 5800X3D. So let's get going with some benchmarking. On the left is the 5600X and on the right is the 5800X3D. Both are running on my old mod list, and this mod list is heavily affected by draw calls. And something to note is that the game works better off a higher clock speed and tends not to use a lot of CPU cores, which is why the old Intel CPUs in the past used to do much better than AMD. But something to note here is that the 3D Vcache actually helps to circumvent some of the issues that come with draw calls, which is why the X3D pulls ahead in this scenario even though the CPU core clock speed is lower and the game isn't even using all of its cores. So I've come to a notorious spot that I'm sure everyone knows for having poor performance. As soon as you look from the Riverwood bridge towards the blacksmith, your FPS will drop no matter what system you're on. But what I find interesting is that the 3D cache just helps you attain that 60 and above, with the occasional dips, but it's a much smoother frame rate. Now, if you want to improve the FPS around Riverwood or areas like this, you need to remove any mods that add to the city, such as extra objects, more NPCs, more buildings, different things like that. Generally, textures and that sort of thing shouldn't affect your FPS, but mainly anything that affects the CPU or adds more objects to the scenario, that would impact the performance quite heavily in this area. Now, moving on to my new list, I've managed to reduce my draw calls, which helps the CPU to be used correctly, as well as the GPU. At this resolution of 1080p, the GPU is allowing itself to push quite high numbers, especially considering the mods that are running in the background. And beforehand, no matter what resolution I put it at, I couldn't attain much past 70 FPS or 80 FPS, no matter where I went. Now, of course, moving from 1080p to 1440p does have a large impact on performance and moves me over to a GPU bottleneck, but it just shows that the CPU is able to push quite high frames and would be a good pairing for most GPUs out there. If you are able to, and you can get yourselves one of the 7800 X3Ds or any of the 3D models from the 7000 series, I would say that the performance uplift would be much more, because now you get the added benefit of higher clock speeds and the 3D Vcache. But in my situation, I was trying to keep the same motherboard and the same RAM, and I did a simple upgrade from the 600X to the 800 3D, and it really does make quite a large difference. So the main takeaway from this video is that 3D Vcache helps draw calls, higher clock speeds improve FPS, multiple cores aren't as necessary, and if you want to reduce your FPS impact, you need to reduce your jaw calls. Now, I hope that this helps some people out there to get their game performing much better, and anybody who was wondering whether it was worth upgrading from a 5600X to the 5800 X3D, I would personally say that it is a really great upgrade, especially in other games as well, not just in Skyrim, and perhaps in other games that use a creation engine, they could also benefit from it. If you would like to see more videos like this, where I cover performance and I do some benchmarking, compare a few different parts and different hardware, please let me know in the comments. And also like and subscribe, it really does help out the channel. Thanks. And that's it for now, everyone. See you next time.